It's time for another insight here on episode 56 of Commentators Corner, and we're going to look at motorsport social media. And there is one man that I had to call up upon this. Good friend of mine who we've known each other for a couple of years now. Lukas Wunderlich, welcome to the show. Good to see you, buddy. How are things? You are keeping very, very busy these days.
Thanks for having me on the show, Alex. Very nice of you. Yeah, well, now we have February currently while we're recording this, and as you know, testing starting, the first karting races start. The drive is going to get more busy, and also I have more and more work to do. But I'm really happy that a lot of stuff is coming up now because winter break was quite long,
Hmm.
to be fair, and you don't have so much to do as a social media manager during winter break.
Yeah, I mean, for those wondering, Lucas runs his own, a couple of companies actually, Wunderlich Media and now On Wheels Media, which is dedicated to female racing driver talent, which includes the likes of Tina Hausmann, Maya Weug, and also Chloe Chong, just to name but a handful. But it's really good to see that, um, we've known each other through the old karting days with a good friend, Mr. Rilletz, who is now a Tony Kart factory driver, but also to have the opportunity to work with some of the great, some great, fantastic young female talents. How busy is your schedule in terms of, let's say, you've got multiple race meetings, so it's not just karting. You've possibly got F1 Academy, Formula 4, so many other things to cover. What's a typical weekend? I know they're not. No one weekend is ever the same with you because you're working on multiple different projects at the same time.
Yeah. So the issue during the season is mostly that I cannot be at several racetracks at the same time. So sometimes I can not cover all the racing series of all the drivers I have. But of course, I try to go to the majority of the races, and then of course it happens that I'm gonna be at a race, for example, in Monza, and at the same time at another racetrack in Europe is another race of other drivers. So I take videos and photos at one racetrack, and at the same time, I need to take care of the social media accounts of the other drivers somewhere else in Europe. So it's quite busy sometimes, but to be fair, then during the week, I have a couple of days off always. But now looking to the season, it's getting very, very busy. Like we have, I think in April, four races, then May starts with another race. Then I have one weekend off, and then again four races in a row. So it's gonna be very, very busy, very, very much traveling, which I like a lot. But of course, it's you cannot really prepare for this because you don't know what's coming up during these race weekends. So you just need to wait and see how it's going. But I'm looking forward to it.
Now, as part of your role, of course, you mentioned about photography, videography as well. There's a lot of equipment that you've got to have, and I know for a fact because I've seen what Lucas uses. Of course, you're like a lot of people in social media will use one of these quite a lot of the time for, like, say, the video,
Absolutely.
which is really good because of the technology now that we're seeing with iPhone, with, like, say, cinematic mode. As long as there's enough light and the
Mhm.
lens gets the exposure. But then, of course, you also have, some more rudimentary, some bigger cameras where you've got, some really, really good setup. But then you've also got to have the computer that really, really is the true workhorse as well, which I know for a fact you're a fellow Mac user. Um,
Yeah.
how much investment have you actually had to make to really sort of year on year up your A game? Because it's very, very difficult when people say, "Yeah, well, I can do it just by this," and then
Yeah. Well,
then they quickly find that they're sinking rather than swimming. You know.
yeah, I would say, and this is an advice also to all the parents of young race drivers out there, you can do everything with an iPhone. So not having the equipment is not an excuse. Of course, having the equipment makes it easier, but over the past 4 years, I have to say, before that, was also a lot into photography and videography, just not in motorsport, but over the past 4 years, I think I spent around 15K on equipment, but I have to say last year I sold a lot of my equipment because in the beginning I started more selling videos and photos at the track. So I needed to have good equipment to get all the footage done at the track. And then with the time I shifted more into focusing on social media management. also doing content, but I realized with the time you don't need to have videos of the drivers on track because especially not pictures because that's not what's performing on social media. So I focused more on getting the drivers' faces, getting close to the drivers. And for this, for example, you don't really need a telelens. So actually, right now, I don't have a telelens anymore. A lot of this stuff can actually be done with the iPhone. Like you go on 4K 60 FPS mode, and then you can do a lot. Of course, if you need to zoom a little bit, the iPhone is not the best thing. So for this, it's good to have a camera. I also have still a quite good camera and a lens that I use. But yeah, I would say it's getting more in the direction that I'm not spending much money on
Mm.
equipment anymore.
Yeah, it's like with me, because Lucas and I know that we both work in social media in some way, shape, or form. I tend to be very heavily focused on the graphic sides, like say when it's timetables, thumbnails for YouTube, which is still happening to this very day. Um, but yeah, like you say, that there's a lot of people that, in some respects, which you've been very, very open about, when it comes to social media, that about finding what works and what doesn't. And sometimes, as you said, like the short reels, which could be anywhere between 15 to 30 seconds with a little bit of cool music and potentially someone doing a voiceover. I still remember when I did that voiceover for when our good friend Mr. Rillets became the first ever person in the B&L karting series history back in 2022 as a senior rookie to win three
Hmm.
titles in three different classes. And I still remember doing that voiceover where my voice sounded rough as anything, and I still managed to pull the voiceover off. It
Yeah.
is quite good that when you have a voice that knows exactly the subject that is in question, like because of having known Kai, Aiti, and Christy for a very, very long time, it felt right just when you said, "Can you do that voiceover?" It is about impact, but it's also about
Yes.
knowing when is the right time to post and what to post and hashtags. I mean, what are the sort of like the five? Let's say, for instance, what are the five key points that you focus on with regards to your clients, in terms of getting the full sort of impact of that social media to the people out there?
Um, I'd say the most important is like the first thing you see on the post. So either if it's a picture, make sure your picture is in front. If it's a video, sorry, if it's a picture, make sure your face is in front, like on the first picture at least. And if it's a video, it's kind of the same. Make sure in the first like 2 seconds people can see you because if you wear your helmet, no one's gonna recognize you. If you have the possibility making a video, maybe try to do a voiceover or talk about your race weekend because that's another thing. People hear your voice, so it's easier to recognize you. Or another time when they see a video of you, they will hear your voice and they will think, okay, I heard this voice before. And then they keep watching your video. And in the end, everything is about watch time on Instagram, on TikTok. So the longer the people watch your content, the app is realizing this and they say, okay, these people spend 10 seconds on this post. That's a good performance. We show this post to more people. And then you get more reach on your TikToks, on your reels, on your posts. And especially if you want to gain more new followers, you should do really focus on reels on Instagram at the moment. That's for now at least. Of course, the algorithm is changing every couple of weeks, months. There are minor updates about it, but if you post a reel, usually you get less likes for the same performance as a post, but you reach much more people that don't follow you yet. So if you post a picture about your race weekend and you put in the results of the final in karting, for example, most likely the people that follow you already will see this and will read it and probably like it, but you will not reach new people with it. But if you post a video and it gets 10,000 views, yeah, it has a good reach, but you can be sure, for example, 9,000 of these 10,000 viewers don't follow you yet. So it's easier to gain a reach through Reels. And if you just think about all these things, okay, you try to put your face in front, maybe do a voiceover, you post a reel, and then you try to just get a good performance on that reel. So you think about, okay, which clips are really necessary to post? which we can maybe cut out. So you have at the end actually the shortest version possible of that reel with all the information you want to provide included. And then you just have a very optimized version of, let's say, a reel that's 30 seconds and it's just, yeah, it's looking cool. Like I see a lot of cinegraphic videos. They look cool, but it's not really what the users want to see on social media. And if you have a 10 seconds video, which is usually enough to put majority of the information in, you have a very good average watch time. And of course, this average watch time really matters on social media. So it said when for example, 10 people watch your video and all these people watch about 8 seconds of this 10 seconds video, you have an average watch time of 80%, which is pretty good. And this is something the apps realize, and then they spread your content.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it was when I was in Qatar for the 2023 Mina Karting Championships Nations Cup. One of the other things that I also find that does actually help is that when you have a reel or when you have a picture post or something and you actually you can tag them as a collaborator as opposed to just tagging them. And I remember there was a reel where I was sort of like welcoming everybody. It was like Tuesday afternoon, and myself and the social media team, they said, Alex, what do we need to do? I said, well, we need to do a welcome video. And so we were scoping out, what should the background be? How long should the reel be? Who should we tag in it? Does it need, like, say, if because with the MENA zone of the FIA, you've also got a lot of Arabic speaking nations in there, so you have to cater for them and put the subtitles on. Make sure that they know who is actually speaking to the camera. And that's another thing where I think a few people sometimes let themselves down. I'm finding that if I'm doing something, I will tag as a collaborator because I know for a fact that if they accept, then straight away you've got even further multipliers in terms of getting that outreach.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing currently on Instagram because of course I also tried this with some of my drivers. And for example, we had a post that was reposted by 3 female drivers, all on their account, so all as a collaborator. And together they had for sure reached about 100,000 accounts. And in the end, the post didn't perform much better than their normal post. And I also experienced this then on other posts, yeah, when we did collaborations with companies or with race teams or whatever. As soon as you do this collaborator post, it's not like it, let's say, doubles your reach because you have 2 very good performing accounts. It's kind of limited, and very often actually the posts then perform worse than they usually do, at least for the profiles that usually get a lot of reach on their reels. If you do these reels with other accounts, it can also limit your reach, and this is something that a lot of people surprise when they do it the first time, or they think they did something wrong, but it's not them, it's more the algorithm.
Yeah. Now coming on to how you actually got started in this business of motorsport. Because there's a little bit of a hidden, well, there's a past that he has told people about, which I know about. We'll come on to that a little bit later. But how did you get your start in sort of motorsport as to trying to help people, with their social media? Because in motorsport now, return on investment, especially when sponsorships and teams are involved, they want to see a return on investment if someone has paid for services like, say, what you provide to really ramp up and to see the throughput like that has been published on Wunderlich Media or on Wheels Media, to see the way that social media has just literally exploded, especially with Tina Hausmann, who's now going to be representing Aston Martin in F1 Academy, which is really, really cool. How did you get your start?
Well, that's a big rabbit hole we jump into. So
you've got time, buddy. You've got time.
Well, I was always a big fan of airplanes actually, and that's how I started doing videography and photography. So that's where I got my whole experience in with cameras. And I did my own social media accounts until COVID started. So aviation industry was kind of down, and I was in the beginning looking for a new hobby. I was interested always in motorsport, so I thought it would be cool to go to Formula One race just to take some pictures. But of course, the prices are very high to go to Formula One race, and as a photographer, you need an accreditation. So I reached out to a company here in Germany that make news, basically, and YouTube videos about motorsport, especially Formula One. They're very known here, and I ended up becoming their social media manager. It was like I sent the email, and the same day I got on a call with them and ended up doing their social media and editing some videos. And then I started just going to some Formula 4 races, um, which was in the beginning, I didn't really thought about what could happen, but I just took some pictures of some drivers, and I ended up being messaged by these drivers because, of course, I posted these pictures. I tagged the drivers so they will notice me. And I ended up getting in touch with some drivers. I had the possibility to go into the paddock. And well, I thought, okay, if I want to work in the paddock, if I want to do something, I need to bring some value to the drivers. And there are so many other people doing photos and selling photos. But I knew I have like some knowledge in doing social media. So I started working on social media accounts of some drivers. And through this, I had the possibility to go into the paddock. Of course, in the beginning, like the first 2 years, I didn't really had the possibility to only live from that. So I worked for other companies at the same time. And then from that money I got from there, I paid the travel costs to go to the races because, for example, when you go to a race and you have one or two drivers there you work for, you usually do not get the payment to cover your flight and your hotel costs or everything around. So in the beginning, it was not really possible to make a living from that. But then, like in 2022, I went to a lot of karting races, which was then easier to plan, like budget-wise, because I knew, okay, I can take a lot of drivers to just take photos of them at the track. And at karting races, you have much more races than in Formula 4, where I started, much more drivers as well. So that was easier. And then, yeah, over the years, it just went bigger and bigger. People started to know me because I would say the approach I do with my drivers on social media is quite different to what other social media agencies do. And of course, with some drivers that are getting more and more successful, people were wondering, okay, who's doing their stuff? I want to have that as well. And yeah, now we're in 2024. It's my fourth season in motorsport, and like I get more and more drivers every week. I'm talking to new drivers. Um, yeah, barely in karting anymore, to be fair. We have two karting drivers currently, but I think that's it for 2024, and all the rest is either in Formula 4 or Formula Regional or Formula 3. So it's super cool how everything yeah, turned out in the end. But of course, the beginning was a bit tough, but I think everyone could start like this working in motorsport. I get this question a lot, how you started in motorsport or what to do to work in motorsport. Just try to think about what can you do that could deliver a value to the people in the paddock, and then just try to improve what you can do, and then with the time it will work out.
Yeah, also one of your newest acquisitions, Hugo Schwarzer, who we both know on the German road tax scene, was in
Hmm.
Ginetta Juniors last year and now moves to GB3. So he'll have Lewis McGlade and Piers Pryor commentating on him this year. But that's
Oh.
really, really cool. So, um, but yeah, I think it's really, really interesting. Sometimes it's about you make your own luck rather than being right place, right time. But there is always that combination of both, and it's not just you working behind the scenes. You've got a, a sort of a little team now supporting you. It must be quite nice that to have that flexibility because when you're a one-man band, you're sort of like thinking, "Oh God, I've got to do this, I've got to do that." You're trying to, like you're halfway through editing a reel, and then the next thing you know, you get three WhatsApps on your phone from three different drivers, and they're saying, "Yeah,
Hmm.
well, I need something up quickly." There's always that mad panic, especially when it comes to the end of a race weekend, where they want the results out as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And we both appreciate and understand that, but sometimes you do have to say to them, "Look, I know what you're saying, but do you want me to do the job right, or do you want me to make a mistake?" And that's always a big thing because you're always as good as the last job you've done.
Hmm.
So, I mean, what's your take on it when like you get bombarded by multiple drivers in a race weekend? How's your way of handling it? Because for me, it's always been a case of I'm always about the quality of the work that I do, and it's like with the
Hmm.
commentary. It's like preparing for a race weekend. Like for instance, folks, I'll give you an idea. We got the Champions Winter Trophy at Karting Genk, where we have got over 170 drivers who I'll be commentating on. We've got 18 heats on the Saturday, 7 qualifying. This is all in the top of my head because I've researched this
Hmm.
already. 7 super heats, I think, 5 finals, and then I've got 171 drivers from nearly 20 nations to commentate on in all Rotax classes plus KZ2 and KZ2 Masters as well. It is all about attention to detail, and sometimes when people say, "Oh yeah, well I'll just cut corners," sometimes that doesn't fly, does it?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I can remember last year, I think it was the first round of the BNL in Genk. That was my busiest karting weekend so far because I had 17 drivers there. And I mean, in the Formula categories, I have like 3 or 4 or 5 drivers maximum at a race,
Hmm.
yeah, or in one category. So I have there I have to focus on 5 drivers and edit the stuff for them. That's fine. But in karting, it's like, okay, they have 5 sessions a day, probably. In Formula, it's maximum 2 sessions a day, sometimes three. And you have much more time in between to edit in Formula. In karting, you are at the track the whole day. So you record the whole day, and as soon as the day is over, you need to start editing the footage. But as soon as the day is over for the karting drivers, it's like, okay, now I'm finished for today. I want to have my videos or I want to have my results. And if I edit a video, for example, I take like approximately 15 minutes to edit. So if I have 17 drivers, 15 minutes, so that means like, okay, let's say 4 to 5 videos an hour. It takes me minimum 3 to 4 hours to edit a video for everyone. And then I also have to edit the pictures. So when I'm back in the hotel at 6 p.m., it is just not possible to finish a video for every driver before 9 p.m. Yeah, and after 9 p.m. it's going to be tricky to post. I tell this usually the drivers like, okay, listen, I have 10 drivers already. I can take you, but I cannot guarantee that you get your videos in time tonight. Or what I do sometimes is that I also already show up on Wednesday or Thursday at the racetrack to get already some footage and some videos in. So on Friday or Saturday, when the drivers really have like their big things coming up, like the heats or the qualifying, and they want to post something, they already got something, although the footage might be from Wednesday or Thursday already. Usually you cannot really see that on the video, but it's like a lot of organization you have to do because in the end, of course, I don't know. If I go on Wednesday to the racetrack, it could be that only 2 of my drivers are there already because the rest of them is in school, and then everyone's showing up on Friday. And what you always have is they tell you, okay, I drive with this and this and this number. In the end, they don't have that number. They all wear their helmets. They have their cards like in the team livery. You cannot easily spot these drivers. And then you have different heats, different categories. And you never really know, okay, how many drivers are in there? Like, where are my drivers? Who are they?
What are
And
they doing?
it's like there's so much stuff you cannot really influence or you cannot prepare for. You just can go there and hope for the best, but I try my best all the time, but I would say every weekend it happened that I was sitting there in the evening. I was like, okay, I forgot 227, or I barely have something of this and this driver. I'm sorry, I cannot give you a video because I haven't seen you today. Um, I don't know if that's only an issue for me or if also other video or photographers have that problem. I'm not going to lie about it, but
Mm.
it's a lot of stress at the karting races then because when the you wake up early in the morning, you go to the track, you run around the whole day, and then you come back in the evening to the hotel, and that's like the point for all the drivers to calm down and relax. And for me, the whole work continues with editing the stuff. And the longer this takes, the less sleep you get, and the next morning you need to get up early again. So karting races are the most stressful thing about this whole stuff. Yeah.
And I can appreciate that as a commentator as well, because there were times, I think, before we actually met in person, I was doing social media.
Mm.
Funny enough, I remember this quite significantly, and I've probably mentioned this in previous episodes. I was at the International Trophy at Le Mans in 2021, and I was working with three drivers, one in mini, one in junior, one in senior. And then I get a phone call from Henry Baudet saying, "Are you available to do the commentary? Because I can't make it." And this is like July 2020, June 2021. So I was already up against it with social media, and then
Mm-hmm.
get asked to do the commentary. Then get told, "Yeah, we're going to start the stream when the heats begin." I was like, "Okay, fine, brilliant." So I had a few things to
Mm-hmm.
sort out on the first day. Um, and then I get a phone call 10 o'clock saying, "Alex, we need you." Why? We're starting the stream in half an hour. I said, "Well, okay, that's become a day rate now." So, uh, so not only did I have to do, I did 47 races on my
Mm-hmm.
own, and I was also doing the graphics and social media updates for all
Mm.
of the drivers that I was with. I have never felt so broken in all my life. Like literally,
Can imagine.
when I had gaps between the races, there was no commentary from me. It was more a case of, okay, which driver that I was working with was in that race, and then having to wait for the official results to come through. So get the right picture, get where it's not a really good shot of them out on track going through a corner, or you see the back bumper with the number on it. You get all the logos arranged, get a little border or something that you've discussed with the client, and then you have to wait for the results to come out officially, and then post, and then
Mm-hmm.
work out the text and the hashtag. So yeah, karting weekends are never easy. Like say for I think the longest ever time I spent at a track, Campilos 2022 for the Rotax Winter Cup. We
Mm-hmm.
had 10 senior heats that day,
Wow.
and I had 26 races to commentate on on my own. And
Wow.
we got back to the hotel. I'd been up since 6:30 that morning, scheduling social media for the streams, the timetables. So for Square posts for Facebook and Instagram, stories with links.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I remember coming back to the hotel, and like everyone, one of the team went, "You all right?" I went, "No," and they went, "Your voice doesn't sound very good." I went, "It'll be fine in the morning," and then
Hopefully.
yeah, Saturdays I think any karting event, no matter what it is, from FIA, European or World Championship karting, from Rotax, from anything, the Saturdays are the busiest days, and then
Mm-hmm.
especially with the line of work that myself and Lucas do, it is the one
Mm.
where you literally the first thing you want to do when that work is done, because you're eating whilst you're working as well, and that doesn't help your digestion at the best
Mm.
of times. So you go to bed, you're tired, you feel a bit lethargic, you feel a bit bloated from what you just had to eat whilst you're working, and then you wake up the next day and you're just like going, "I'm just going to be." The first thing you think is, "I'll be so glad when I get home and get to my own bed."
Yeah. 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 For me, during the karting races, or also, yeah, well, some Formula races where I could go by car. Um, I know this sounds mean, but especially the karting race, sometimes you have these weekends where none of your drivers makes it on the podium. And for Sunday afternoons, let's say, these were the best weekends because no, I mean, I felt sorry for my drivers. Of course, I'm happy when they're on the podium, but usually you have it like, okay, the race ends at 2 p.m. and then you have to wait because there's probably some DD2 masters or something. Yeah, I never had clients there. I never did that. But the races have to finish as well. And then there's, I don't know, some discussion going on or whatever. And then in the end at 5 or 6 you have the podium. So you stay there for 3 or 4 hours where you have to wait just to get like one picture from the podium of your driver. Like you wait for 4 hours for one picture. You're tired. You're just exhausted from the whole weekend. And I also have to keep in mind, usually from all the races I did, either like in Belgium or the Netherlands, I drive home 6 to 7 hours, like back to my place in Germany. And if you then keep in mind, man, I need to wait for 4 hours to take one picture. You're very thankful if you don't need to wait these 4 hours. I also had it, and sometimes that I just ask other photographers if they could take a picture of my driver, and I pay them for that or something. And I left the track early, but I think you can understand how that feels if you have the possibility. Okay, man, I can go 4 hours earlier home. I'm home at 8 p.m. in the evening and not 2 a.m. in the morning the next day or
Oh,
something. Yeah.
yeah. It's yeah. Travel is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing, especially when it's at the end of it. You know, like the getting there is like the excitement sort of ramps up, the adrenaline's going. It's like, oh, I'm really looking forward to being at the track again. And then the
I mean,
minute
it's
you,
also the way how you travel.
yes, it does. I mean, it's like with regards to me, like say if it's a one-off weekend, I'll I'll fly and get a hire vehicle because I always find independence is one of those lovely little things that when you like
Hmm.
say with the rest of the team, like, oh, how did you get here, Alex? Did you drive? Be like, yeah, I've got a hire car. Oh, and then someone tries to rope me into taking people back to the same hotel if they're at that hotel, and go like, no,
Hmm.
no, no, I need bed. Like literally, I'll have something at the like say the brasserie at Carting Genk, for instance, and it'll be like 9 o'clock, and the first thing I want to do is go straight to bed. I know I've got a long day on the Saturday. I think the last race is like at 7:10 in the evening, and
Hmm.
then I've got to then wait for all the results to be confirmed to find out who's the leader after for the ranking after the heats going into the super heats the following morning. So I've got to
Hmm.
post all that up, and then they go, "Yeah, is everything all right?" I go, "Yeah, like literally, you." People will go, "Oh, we didn't see you this weekend." A perfect example was what B&L Marienburg last year, and then we had Euro back to
Hmm.
back, two successive weekends. And I remember driving from that was on B&L. That was on the weekend when we lost Ilano, um, and I had actually driven on the Friday night to from Spa through all the back roads in the Ardennes Forest, which is an absolute pain in the backside because I don't think I got any higher than 60 kilometers an hour in third gear. It's like second, third, fourth, second, yeah, then second, then third, then second, and it was just. I got to the hotel in France at about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I walked in and went, morning, morning. How are you? It's like three energy drinks in my bag. just tried to get me through the day, and I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't think I. I think the only time I came out of the commentary box was whether I needed to go outside and have a vape, or go to the toilet, or grab my lunch, and then just go and sit in the commentary box. And if I could, just shut the door and get a quick power nap if it was the lunch break. And everyone was like saying, "We didn't see you last weekend." I went, yeah, I was like non-compos mentis. I just had to stay in the commentary box and just chill out. But it is one of those things. But yeah, like you say, it is the way that you travel. And sometimes,
Yeah.
like when I have, like when I've had my road trips, when I've been out for like 3 weekends in a row, but it's always good because there are always friends that you get to know really really well, and they become friends for life. And they go, yeah, you can stay here with us for a few days before you need to. And that's another
Yeah,
beautiful
that's
thing
true.
about this community, where people help people out, like saying, oh yeah, yeah, don't worry, you don't need to pay me anything. You still give them a gift to say thank you very much, just out of
Hmm.
kindness more than anything. But then it's also
Yeah.
good when I can get additional work in between those weekends, and I think that's going to be
Yeah.
the case when I go over for B&L round one kick-off, and then I got another karting event in between that and B&L round one. So like the car's going to probably be doing like about the best part of 2,500 kilometers because there's going to be trips to Langenzenn, Düsseldorf, Genk, Marienburg, God knows wherever else.
Yeah. If we come back to the travel topic, I mean, I should specify this because people when you talk about traveling, people might not understand what we mean with traveling. So, for example, when I go soon to the Formula 4 races, yeah, with one of my drivers, I go to like I take the train here, 15 minutes to the airport. I go on the plane, I fly there. There's a rental car. In the evening, I go in the hotel. That's luxury travel, in my opinion. Sometimes, of course, I also have this, but back then in the karting days, a lot of drivers know my blue big van. Yeah, I had a van with a bed in the back, but it was not a camper. It was a van, literally a van with a bed in the back. And that means, okay, I drive to the racetrack, I sleep in my van. I'm not having a hotel or something. Yeah, I'm
Mm.
not flying somewhere. It's usually like a 8 hours trip by car.
Yeah.
Then you stay in your van without any heating or something in the back. I remember in end of 2022, it was the Golden Trophy in Genk. It was like 8 degrees outside, and I was laying there with 3 blankets in my van, having a cold, and that's the night. And the next morning you need to get up. But back then, if you consider, okay, if I would catch a flight to Brussels, for example, and get a rental car there, drive to the racetrack and get a hotel. It's like flight 200 euros, rental car 200 euros, and the hotel for the whole weekend probably 400 euros. So that makes 800 euros just for getting there and staying there.
Yeah.
And if you then consider, okay, if I go there with my own car, if I sleep in my own car, yes, it's a pain in the ass, but that costs me like 200 euros fuel, and that's it, and you that's 600 euros of money you save. So you kind of torture yourself through that weekend to save that money because, yeah, for me in the beginning, it was just not possible to spend so much money on traveling because otherwise I just could make a living from motorsport. I think that's also something a lot of people don't see. Of course, when you are successful with your work, one day people are like, yeah, okay, he earns a lot of money or he has a lot of clients and that's it. But they don't see that time where you slept 4 days in November in your car to save the money so you can do work in motorsport, That's
Mm.
that's like the other side, but not that people get the imagination, oh, he's flying to a racetrack and going to a hotel and then he's complaining about traveling so long. No, I love flying. I love going to hotels and I don't have a problem driving around with rental cars, but like the whole package with sleeping in the car and driving for hours, have no heating, that's the hard part. That's the tough part.
Yeah, I think it's also like I've spoken with quite a few of my previous guests where their work in motorsport is not full time. They're doing a full
Yeah.
time job alongside it, but they're then having to sacrifice going on a 2 week all inclusive holiday to somewhere sunny where they can get drinks on tap, eat as much as they like, and then get rid of the bikini body that they probably have worked 6 months for to get there. But yeah, it is a case that even though this is now going to be my seventh year as a commentator,
Mm-hmm.
there are times when I'm quite fortunate to be in the position that I am, whereby like it's like when, and you'll know this as well, Lucas, that when you agree with the client that there have to be certain specifics put into place, you have to make sure that you get that in writing. There used to
Yes.
be times when deals were done by a handshake, but now it's a case of any kind of information, such as an agreement via a WhatsApp message, email communication, is actually in many respects it is legally binding. It's how the
Mm.
law has progressed, but it's just been, even I'm still trying to make things a lot more comfortable for me because I'm at that point now in my life where I can't believe I'm saying this, mate. I'm 3.5 years away from pushing 50.
Wow.
Yeah, and,
Man.
people say you don't look it. Yeah, if I shave this goatee off, yeah, you'll think most people think I'm in my mid 30s. But it's a case that sometimes where it's going to be a busy weekend, but you
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure that everything's as easy as possible. That, like, say, with the road trips, I have to take into consideration, okay, there's a lot more wear and tear on my car. How can I, so like say tires wearing out, brake pads and discs,
Mm.
suspension possibilities. I think before the road trip, I'm either going to do the service before I go out, or just wait until I come back.
Mm.
And again, it's about sort of not just looking at having to save money, but then you've also got to look at, okay, when can I do the service on my car? It's not a case of, yeah, I've got the money, I'll do it, because you've got to wait for invoices to come through. But
Yes.
but let's get on to you mentioned, well, you sort of beat me to it because obviously your love for aviation. I bet was that something that you sort of really enjoyed as a young child, and sort of like to be able to get that opportunity to go around to certain places like say the Sunshine Museum, which we've both been to, where they've got the Tupolev and the Concorde literally literally facing one another. I ended up going
Yeah.
there the other year. How did your love of aviation come to be?
I don't know, man. Since I was 4 years old, it was clear for me I want to become a pilot, like an airline pilot. And then I remember in the age of 6, I was flying the first time, and since then, everything was about airplanes. I was playing Flight Simulator all the time. I was going back then on Google Earth. Like on Google Earth, you could go above the airports, and then you could click on different images. So I could watch images of airplanes at airports. That was super cool. And then, yeah, with the time, I had the possibility to go on my own to the airport. So since like when I was 14 years old, like I jumped on the bus in the afternoon, went to the airport here, and we're just watching the airplanes until I found out there's actually a big community, like a plane spotter community, aviation photography, and all that stuff. And I ended up getting into this community, and like since then, that was in end of 2014. That has been my life for several years, like until the lockdown started. Of course, I was still going to school, but was like, okay, Friday afternoon, school was finished. Where are I gonna go this weekend? Of course, I was not flying all the time because it was expensive back then. I had my first job when I was 16, so from them I could afford it. But before, like, I was getting money to birthday and to Christmas, and I spent this money on flying somewhere, doing trips with my friends because all my friends have been in this community, and we were all doing trips together. And like I recently met two of them, which was super fun because I haven't seen them in years, and we said like Europe was our playground. Like we had so much fun. We were traveling to Madrid, to London, to Zurich, Vienna, wherever we wanted to go. Our parents just let us go there. Now I think like, wow, they have been pretty nice to us for allowing us to do so. And yeah, the focus was doing flight school and becoming a pilot. I applied at Lufthansa at the flight school in 2019 and did my test there. I passed. And then I thought like my dream is coming true. And then there was this virus coming over, and the whole industry went down literally. Flight school was closed for 2 years. I tried to find another job in the aviation industry, but it was just not possible. And as I mentioned earlier, I also had my own social media channels in aviation with my YouTube channel where I did videos, with my Instagram channels, but no airline had anything, like no budget to do any events or something. There was not the possibility to create any content. And that's when I changed, like doing motorsport. And now I'm happy that everything went as it did because I can still fly a lot. I also could now become a pilot if I want to, but I prefer to say motorsport at least for now. But yeah, aviation has been a big, big part of my life. I mean, you can still see it here in the background. That's a picture I've taken of a Airbus A380 at Munich. Very proud of that.
Yeah. Um, but also with regards to motorsport, the seasons are whenever the racing season gets underway, it's all hands to the pumps, it's full throttle. Um, but the winter period is always a good idea to. And I'm gonna actually come to a post that you did a voiceover for, where like you've had some really enjoyable experiences, but the most enjoyable were sorting out content days with the drivers, going to catch up
Hmm.
with them, and I mean there must have been some times where you try to film something, and every single time either someone starts laughing or no matter what happens, it's like you get to this point, you're going, oh shit, can we just try and get this sorted now? And like you've been mucking around,
Yes.
like what's some of the funniest moments that's happened? You can name check drivers if you want to, because I'm sure they'll remember.
I think the most fun time I had in doing content was actually this winter in Sweden. I went for New Year's Eve to one of my drivers, Gustav Johnson, who did in 2023 British Formula 4. And like the trip was not main focusing on doing content, but of course we said, okay, let's go ski and celebrate New Year's Eve together and do some content. And literally we had so much fun. We have amazing behind the scenes. We created a super cool YouTube video which is coming up in a couple of days, and it was, I don't know, we couldn't stop laughing for days, and his family was there as well. One of his friends, his brother. It was just such a great time. But I have to say, usually, always when I do content days with my drivers, either is it going to Roman in Milan, or I also went to Chloe in London, and a lot of stuff. We have so much fun. Like literally, I cannot remember content days with drivers where I was like, oh, I'm happy that I'm home. It's always so nice because all the drivers I work with, it's not like only a business relationship. I would say I could consider all the drivers I work with as friends because you spend so much time together at the track. You also do start doing stuff off track and you just get along with each other. Otherwise, I think it would also not make sense to work together for such a long time. And yeah, I think the most fun time is then doing content days off track because, of course, at the track, you're going to be serious all the time because it's very important to be focused there. And then off the track, you just have even more fun.
Yeah, it's sort of like when I do the road trips, and because of the amount of people that I know within the industry,
Hmm.
where you get the opportunity to, like with my good friend Conrad Bayer, who's going to be running in KZ2 Masters, so I'm going to see him
Hmm.
literally peel off the starting grid at karting Genk with and be faster than a Porsche 911 to 100 kilometers an hour by way before they hit turn one. But it's great because like I always find that with the road trips that I do, like when I'm doing 2 to 3 weekends in a row, that you get the opportunity, especially when it's coming over from the UK in my own car, going on the Eurotunnel, and then just having that freedom, that flexibility where people go, oh yeah, well, yeah, whenever you're doing a weekend, you're normally flying, and I go like, well, not when I've got 3 weekends back to back and it's in the same country, and
Mm.
I'd rather like last year, I think there was um, I think I did 2 or 3 weekends in a row, and I decided to take the car, which was actually the right call. So yeah, I think I had 3 weekends in a row. Can't remember. I think Genk was at least one of the race weekends. It always tends to be anyway. The amount of times I've been there at that place. And so I ended up going to my friend Conrad's in Medman, just in outside of Düsseldorf, and then I ended up going to see one of my friends Yannick in Braunschweig, which is
Hmm.
right like a 6 hour journey each way. But it was just the opportunity to go to a place that I hadn't visited before. I'd never been to before. I'd always heard about it, and then it was a case of, yeah, let's. So I found a cheap hotel, which was like 30 minutes outside of Braunschweig in Gifhorn, and I just spent a couple of days, and we were playing darts. We were just talking shit. We were just like having fun, and I think it's like you say, Lucas, that it may not be, it isn't just a professional relationship. It's having that friendly banter and getting to know people. And it's like I think wasn't it when you went to see Chloe in London? That was also Fashion Week that week as well, wasn't it? If I remember correctly.
It was the day before I went to London. I was in Milan for Fashion Week, actually.
Mm,
Yes, but that was apart from motorsport.
yeah. I mean, what would you say so far have been some of the highlights of sort of tracks that you've been at and visited over the course of the past 4 years? Would you say what's been the biggest highlights for you?
Wow, it's a tough question. I've never been to a Formula One race yet.
Hmm.
I think that would be the biggest highlight. I hope it's coming this season. Um, I mean, I had a lot of nice moments with my drivers, like their first podiums or winning a championship or becoming a race winner, things like this. I think I cannot pick a specific memory where I could say, okay, this was the best one. But I think the most emotional one for me, at least until now, was actually the last race weekend 2023 in Hockenheim from the Formula Regional. I mean, it was the first time with Formula Regional that I had a race in Hockenheim. The last one I went to was in 2021 with Formula 4. So the first time in a long time for me to go there. Then there was also the DTM, as far as I can remember. A lot of people there, yeah, it was DTM. And seeing so many motorsport fans in Germany, a lot of nice interactions with my drivers. But at the same time, I always had the knowledge, okay, this is the last time I see everyone like for a couple of months. And it made me a bit emotional. It's like the last day of school, okay, now it's gonna be summer holidays for a couple of weeks and you can calm down, but at the same time, you do not see your friends. And as I said, most of my drivers, most of the people in motorsport, I'm just very good friends because it feels like a family when you're traveling so much together and you spend so much time. And then yeah, it was over for at least for last year. Of course, now I'm super happy that it starts 2024 again, but that was the most emotional weekend for me until then. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely understand with regards to Hockenheim. I'd been there for quite a few times. I was there when Marco Widman won both his titles,
Hmm.
Pascal Wehrlein when he won in 2015, which was crazy because I still remember quite a funny moment. Nico Rosberg was there anyway, and it was the year before he managed to get the title with Mercedes, and we were like 5 races from. We were like, I think it was the weekend after he was going to be flying to Circuit of the Americas,
Hmm.
and I asked, sensible question, and then we had the Spanish journalist saying, um, well, if Lewis wants to get past you, and he asks for the team to tell you, what are you gonna do? And like everyone was just going like head in hands moment. It's like you don't ask someone fighting for the FIA Formula One World Championship drivers title a question like that because it is blatantly obvious. And myself, Leo Gorman, Tamara Aller, we all had our head in our hands like this, like, what is this guy on? And then I found out from Tamara saying, yeah, he's the Spanish journalist that everyone wants to avoid because he asks these stupid, random, and sometimes moronic questions.
Hmm.
But Lucas, thank you so much for your time, buddy. It's been a real pleasure having you on for episode 56 of Commentators Corner. If you want to get in touch with this man and also the respective companies, if you are a driver out there looking for social media, give this man a shout because he will definitely make sure you're looked after. Those links will be in the description below for all the relevant social media channels, along with Lukas, Wunderlich Media, and also On Wheels Media. That's it for episode 56. If in doubt, flat out, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.